Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Kay Cote, and I am your podcast host here on the show today. Today, we have Greg Freeman, CEO of Data Literacy Academy, as our guest. We're going to be diving into his business, what it's like to be in business, and give you an inside scoop to what it's like to own and operate a business. And this could be all the challenges that we face and all the triumphs that we have. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop episodes like this. Welcome, Greg. It's so great to meet you today.
Hey Kay, nice to meet you. Pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Well, yeah, let's start off with share a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your company.
Greg Freeman founded Data Literacy Academy at the end of 2022. So my background was as a commercial leader in startups and scale-ups. Took a couple of companies through some rounds of funding and always knew that I wanted to do my own thing. And I think the real gap at that point was in the value being extracted from data and the fact that a lot of money, and we're talking billions and billions of dollars, was being spent across the industry on technology in the data space, but less time, money, and credibility was being given to the value of bringing people on that journey. I saw an opportunity to be effective in that space because my degree is in teaching, my background's commercial, but I'm also pretty data literate in my own right. So launched the business in September 2022, and we've been on a pretty fast journey since. Actually, it's been a really, really good journey for the team, and it's been good with the types of clients we get to work with. So yeah, it's been exciting.
Well, that is wonderful. I'm super excited to dive into all these elements you just mentioned and more. And let's start off. You said you're growing. What does your team look like right now? How many team members do you have? And are you looking to expand that?
We have just hit 40 full-time employees and about 40 part-time employees. So there's about 80 people involved in the business now. So that's been really quick over the last 2 years, ultimately. I think probably 70% of those have been hired in the last 12 months, and we've just added another 10 heads in the last 3 weeks. So yeah, the growth has been fairly rapid. We've managed to secure some really kind of strong business defining contracts in the last 6 months or so, and that's allowed us to grow and work with some of the world's top companies. We work with a number of the FTSE companies and a number of like household name brands that people on both sides of the Atlantic would see as kind of rolling off the tongue. So that's quite a nice place to be.
That is incredible. Well, congratulations on your growth. I'm excited to kind of dive more into that too. And looking at, you mentioned your clients and who you're working with. Like, if I were to walk in your doors, how would I know I'd be an ideal client for you?
Yeah, I like our ideal clients are large enterprises, so we're fairly industry agnostic. I mean, we work with leading names in retail, financial services, central government, higher education, insurance. It's manufacturing is a big one for us. So it's a very sector agnostic problem. But in terms of the types of businesses we work with, they're almost exclusively over 1,000 employees, anywhere up to 400,000 employees. Usually have an element of legacy types of operating models within what they do. So probably our most hip and trendy brand would be ASOS, I'd guess. And ASOS are obviously quite a modern e-commerce brand, but typically our businesses that we work with are more traditional than that. The likes of BAE Systems and building societies, big banks, that type of organization, because there's a lot of data learning and data culture change to happen in those types of businesses. So they make a perfect fit for us.
Oh, definitely. And you mentioned like data and data information. So what is it that like what are some of the services that you're providing to these companies around data?
Yeah, so I mean, for us, it's really about the people. It's about the non-data professionals and taking them on the journey of the way that data's changing their job roles, changing the opportunities in their job roles, the way they can solve their problems. And as much as for a lot of people, the idea that data is valuable is acknowledged, I'd say. Actually, for a lot of people, it's still quite scary. It's still quite an uncomfortable topic for people. There are elements of maths and stats and new technology in it. Not everybody's jumping out of bed every day thinking, how am I gonna make my day better with data? So, because businesses want their employees to use data for value and to solve business problems and to deliver business outcomes, the expensive technology projects aren't enough. It needs the people to go on the journey too. So we deliver change management, we deliver internal communications programs around the value of data, the opportunity of data. We do stuff like gamification of data programs and data literacy programs, but really at the heart of it is the education. So it's live learning, it's self-paced learning, it's a really good learning experience for employees of these large companies.
That's incredible too. It's because I try to wrap my brain around data, and that's something new to me as just, being, an interviewer here. So it's really intriguing to learn about that. Where do you see the future with data going?
Yeah, I think this is the challenge with our space really is that there's a lot of buzz, and there always has been a lot of buzz. I mean, a lot of there's some very, very impressive startups and scale-ups that have been built in the data space, probably on the premise or the dream that data is a silver bullet for businesses and that it'll solve all the problems you've got. And I think again, AI is probably in that space at the moment where
Mhm.
people it's become very mainstream in the last 2 years, AI, and people are now talking about how they use it in their private lives and all that type of stuff. Chat GPT, OpenAI, all that type of stuff's going ahead. And as much as it is going to change the way we work and it's going to change the way that businesses operate, and there's incredible value that can be achieved through the use of data at enterprise, um, it's not going to go as fast as people hope it will. It's
Mm.
not going to solve all the problems they hope it will. And it's really about how do we prepare the people in the business for the change, I think is the big piece. But yeah, I mean, the world of data is evolving. I think it's a great space to be in, to be honest. I think I've been in a number of different spaces in my career, and data's definitely the one that I'd want to stay in and probably want to move into. I feel really fortunate that we've been able to bring some great people from other parts of industry into the data industry through our business, because I think if they find their spot in the data industry, they'll see that it's highly rewarding when it's done right. It obviously it pays people really well and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think the future of data is avoiding being a buzz topic and actually getting people to make the most of it, deliver value from it, make sure it's seen as a strategic asset to the business, not just as a buzzword that people don't really understand.
Oh, definitely. Well, it sounds like that's like exactly where you guys are going with the team. And it kind of brings me to my next question, which is like, what is maybe something that you would want to share that maybe is misunderstood in your business? And like, what would you want to share with people so they understand it better?
Um, I mean, really, the concept of data and AI, I guess, would be the main one. That I think
Hmm.
people see data and AI and the type of work that we talk about, or when they meet us, they see it as a very numerical, quantified. If I don't understand how to do the maths, if I don't understand how to use the technology, it's not going to be for me. Whereas actually, a lot of the work we do is really helping people understand that it is a business problem and that it is a confidence problem and that they can be part of it. And actually, a lot of the good stuff that happens in data is very, very cultural and not very technical at all. And you don't need to feel comfortable with the technology at first. You just need to feel comfortable with how it can help you, how it can make your results better, make your job easier. And I think there's a real misconception, and the data industry has probably done a fairly poor job of clarifying this up to now, that you don't have to be a technical person, you don't have to be a statistician to be involved in the data industry, you don't have to be a statistician to understand data and be part of delivering value from it. So that's probably the one I'd say, from a data and AI perspective. From a business perspective, um, I think I've always been a firm believer that a foundational education is really important. And it's not to say it's not. I think university is an important route for different people and all those types of things. But I think what we've done really well as a business is managed to find people who've not been through the university system, they've not been through the college system, um, but they still deliver immense value and performance within our business. So that's probably opened my eyes a lot to how people from non-conventional academic backgrounds can be your best employees, and they bring a level of life experience and industry experience that people don't when they come straight out of university. So that'd probably be the business side learning that's been most interesting.
That is incredible. Well, thank you for clarifying that too, because I think that does, let people know that there's more to it than meets the eye. And there's a lot that can be done, especially when you talked about being, it's like you're in the business of people first and really just creating those tools and education components to help them understand data a little better.
100%.
Well, looking at kind of where you're going, what is, we'll take it forward first and then we'll take it back. So, what do you see for your company here in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think where the company goes from here is to continue establishing a really strong base within enterprise in the UK, probably starting to do increasing amounts of work in the wider European market. I've personally always wanted to take a startup to America, so I think it's highly likely that we'll end up doing that in the not too distant future. Comes with its own challenges, comes with its own budget that needs to be worked out, but we are an extremely cash flow positive business. There's a lot of there's a lot of opportunity for us to do that, and therefore the US is definitely on the cards. And then it's just about keeping up with the speed of change in the industry. Like, we now teach AI. We didn't teach AI 6 months ago. So how do we keep evolving the product stack, and how do we keep evolving the programs to meet the growing needs of industry and a changing world? And I think that's the biggest challenge we face in the next 3 to 5 years, but it's also the biggest opportunity.
Oh, 100%. Well, yes, if you're ever on this side of the pond, definitely hit me up. That's really
Will
cool
do.
goals. And now kind of taking it back a little bit, in your journey in this last few years of business, what has been a challenge that you were faced with that you were able to overcome, and how did you do it?
Yeah, I think that the biggest challenge we faced was balancing being able to hire the right people whilst not having all the money in the world. I mean, we've only raised quite a small amount for the amount of growth we've gone through. I mean, we've raised 1.3 million pounds, so it's about $1.7 million, I think. And actually have more than that still in the bank. So we've never actually used any of the money we've spent. But finding like, having the confidence to hire great people, hire senior people, knowing they're going to have an impact, but that impact's going to be delayed, was definitely something that the business faced as a real kind of pivot moment, where it was like, not pivot, almost like a crux point, where it was a case of, we now have to take these bolder decisions in order to drive more exponential growth and more success. But that's just a massive risk. So we as we ironically would go back to the data and just made sure that we had a very clear picture of our pipeline, our sales pipeline, our marketing pipeline, our cash flow forecast, all those types of things, making sure they were in place, which really empowered us to make decisions in the trust that we knew we were going to be okay. And I think that then has been a really big driver of why the business has grown even faster in the last 12 months, because we've made some impressive senior hires who've come in with models that worked, and just doubled down on what was already a fairly successful model. So yeah, I think that balance and those moments where you feel like you're gambling, and actually you're not gambling, as long as you know that you've got the information in place to make the decisions.
Oh, definitely. That reminds me of like the phrases like taking these educated risks. So you're taking a, jumping into new territory, but you have things to back it up so you find success. I love that. Well, this has been such a great conversation. I loved hearing about your business and sharing these golden nuggets. And to anybody listening to this, listen to this a couple times through. There's a lot that, that Greg has said in this conversation to really help like foster growth in business. And so now, Greg, I would love to dive into a fun part of the conversation called our rapid fire questions, where I ask you
Okay.
4 questions, very top of mind.
Okay,
All
cool.
right, let's rock and roll. Question number one is, what is a key to success for you?
Hard work. I believe that it's useful to be the smartest person in a room. It's useful to be the most charismatic person in the room, whatever it might be for a lot of people, but you just can't replace hard work because you can fix a lot of problems by working harder, making yourself available and just leaning in harder than anybody else. So yeah, hard work is the key to success.
Hard work is the key. Number two is, what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
Yeah, so this one I'm gonna hopefully not lower the sentiment of the conversation too much, but the industry in the UK lost a really good person in 2024 as a result of a motorbike accident. A guy called Ryan, and I think the thing that I took from my relationship with him was that he didn't talk about motivation for business people. He talked about discipline, and you can wake up and feel motivated, but motivation isn't going to carry you through every day for 10 years. And this is a 10-year journey realistically for most startup founders. So it actually is about having the discipline to do the same thing every day, knowing that it will work out in the end, not to wake up hoping you're going to be motivated. So I think that mental shift from motivation to discipline has been a really powerful thing for me in my own journey because the days are long, they're hard, there's challenges. But I think, yeah, always put it down to that fact that it's discipline over motivation.
That is so true, and that is wise words by that person in your life. So I'm sorry for your loss, and thank you for sharing that nugget of wisdom from him. My next question is like, what is a it could be a book or a piece of content, something that you've taken in most recently.
I was going to say I just don't like books, so I would love to sit here and be like, oh yeah, the reason that I founded this company is because of books, and I learn from books, or I just don't read, and I don't really like reading. I like listening to books. So I guess for me, I actually I pull most of my information from my network, if I'm honest. I think, funnily enough, one of our top employees' dads is one of my mentors, and I think he brings a load of really good experience in much more established private equity backed companies that just kind of allow me to see the wood from the trees at times. And we're moving so fast, you don't always need day-to-day advice, but sometimes you hit big kind of like rocks and logs in the road that you've got to jump over. And I tend to lean on my network for that. So I can't give you a
Mm.
specific piece of content, but having the right people that have been one or two steps further on than you and being willing to go to them when you need help is probably the biggest opportunity.
Oh, your network is your net worth.
It
That
is.
that is true. And the final question in our rapid fire is, if you could overnight, like if you could wave a magic wand and overnight improve one aspect of your business, what would it be?
I would wave a magic wand and ensure that cross-functional communication was solved. Because when you've grown from one person two and a bit years ago to the best part of 80, building the functions to speak to each other, think holistically across the whole sphere, not just about their own individual problems, is definitely a challenge. And I also think one of my observations is that a lot of people do struggle with that thinking jump from kind of
Mm.
like operational vertical thinking to strategic more horizontal thinking, and therefore comms and process across function is a really hard challenge as you grow. I think one of the things that we've done, just in case anybody wants a tip on this, is we made a decision actually as a senior leadership team to bring in a couple of people mid-level and make their entire job ironing out the creases between departments and between processes. And it's had a massive impact, actually. It's probably the most impactful thing we've done in the last 2 years is to bring people in who don't get distracted by the day-to-day of their like vertical job role. Their entire world is thinking about how the business works more horizontally.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean it's the best part of six-figure investment, but it's a worthwhile one, and that dedication to it has had a huge impact.
Wow, that is a powerful one. And, communication is key. So thank you for sharing that. Before we get to our final question of the day, how can people find you online and connect with your business?
I am, according to most of my friends, overly present on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is always a good way. Data Literacy Academy is also fairly prevalent on LinkedIn. So yeah, LinkedIn's almost definitely the best way. And if you connect with me, do be warned that I will probably be on your timeline most days. And I apologize somewhat in advance for that.
I love it. I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn and stay connected with what you're doing. This has been such a great conversation. And so the final question of today is, what is most inspiring to you today?
This is going to sound super cliche. It's actually the fact that I think as a founder, you you hire the best you can. You always hire the best people that you think you're meeting, all that kind of stuff. But actually, the amount of buy-in, the amount of commitment, the amount of problem solving, the amount of like challenging thinking our team do literally blows me away every single day. Like I am amazed by the problems they are able and willing to solve and the speed they're willing to solve them at and the extra work they put in to make sure they're solved in time and effectively like that they really are, and it sounds super cliche, but like the team actually do massively inspire me because they work incredibly hard and they do some really smart stuff, and I've got a lot of respect for it. So
Oh, well, that is incredible. It was great to be inspired by your team. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for being on the Business Spotlight podcast.
thank you very much.